We have a new report from the leaker Ralph's Valve that apparently Infinity Ward are working on a Simon Ghost Riley prequel spin-off campaign. I want to stress before we dive into this deeper that Ralph hasn't exactly been that reliable. He recently obviously posted about an apparent Advanced Warfare 2 in development at Sledgehammer Games, of which Charlie Intel and other sources then came out and said that this is completely false. Even Jason Schreier came out and corroborated that. And even looking at his overall track record with leaks, a lot seems like he is getting some little tidbits of information, but then guessing a lot of things and misinterpreting things. Of course, all leaks and rumors are subject to change and or misinformation due to errors of word of mouth, but with Ralph, it doesn't seem like that is exactly the case. Yes, that might be the reason for some mishaps, but there's just been way too much completely off the ball. Usually, if there is a leak that is partially correct, but there are some wrong pieces regarding it, you can kind of get a gist of how that incorrect information came to be, or whether things just changed in development. But with a lot of things he's been saying, it doesn't seem like they were ever even in development and things were just very off the ball. And I think it is because he does get slight bits of information but then guesses a bunch of stuff. With that being said, let's go over what he has been discussing today. But keep what I just mentioned in the back of your mind and take it with a massive grain of salt. When Modern Warfare 2 released, there was an interview with IGN and Infinity Ward's head campaign writer Brian Bloom, and he stated that the developers actually want to do a Simon Ghost Riley origin story. They said there are others who would like to do that too, and we think that that would be really interesting. And again, that's kind of where this interview started, and there's something about that character that is iconic, but the mask and some of those more superficial elements, as we've attempted to build them out here in our current release, where did some of those things come from? And exploring that and looking at that would be something I think the audience would love and we would love to get into. So it seems like the writers at Infinity Ward are looking into doing a Simon Ghost Riley origin story. And the thing is, they've already came out and said this, which is why I feel like Ralph just takes information and then runs with it and just kind of guesses. The writers have already came out and said they are planning to do this, so now Ralph has solid groundwork to make a guess out of, even though he's not really providing any new information than what's already public. He's just guessing as to how they may do this Simon Ghost Riley origin story. Of course, in the original Modern Warfare trilogy, Simon Ghost Riley did get an origin story, but it was in the form of a comic book. Within that interview, Brian Bloom never actually specified how they want to do this origin story, whether it's going to be physically in-game with its own campaign, or whether it might just be a comic book similar to the original. Also, another thing worth mentioning is that although we already received a Simon Ghost Riley origin story in the form of a comic book, considering the fact that we are now in a rebooted timeline, the origin story for Ghost doesn't necessarily have to be the same. It might be similar, but might not be exactly the same. I think a lot of people have been kind of mistaken about that, since I've seen a lot of videos flowing around about the full story of Simon Ghost Riley in the rebooted timeline, but whenever they do that, they just talk about the original Simon Ghost Riley's backstory. But like I said, we don't necessarily know whether his backstory is going to be the same. It could be completely different for all we know. So like I said earlier, Ralph doesn't actually provide any further information than what was already posted about within that interview. He simply speculates within an article for whatifgaming.com about how they might do this Simon Ghost Riley origin story, and he says that it's apparently going to be a part of a campaign, but he doesn't actually know what it is. He then speculates that maybe this Simon Ghost Riley origin story could be the campaign DLC that is rumored to release in 2023. As you know, apparently there's going to be a paid-for premium content update for Modern Warfare 2 in its year 2. That's essentially going to be an entirely new game. It's going to be marketed as an entirely new game, featuring a new campaign and a bunch of remastered multiplayer maps and more content that we currently have no official word on just yet. So that could be what this campaign DLC is, but Ralph just speculates about it. He doesn't give confirmation on whether that is actually the case. His article states that throughout the launch of Modern Warfare 2, Infinity Ward had apparently reached out to Samuel Roukin, who is the new voice actor for Simon Ghost Riley, with the notion of further developing his character beyond the box release. Whether this spin-off develops into Modern Warfare 2's alleged premium expansion for 2023 remains a mystery, and he has not been able to get confirmation. Of course, Simon Ghost Riley is probably one of the most popular characters ever featured in Call of Duty, and he's very beloved in this reboot. A lot of people are loving the new voice actor Samuel Roukin a lot more than Jeff Leach. who was previously let go, and they are also loving this character and think he stands on par with the original Simon Ghost Riley from the original trilogy. They're both very different to each other, and I do like how sassy and snarky this new Simon Ghost Riley is. And there's a bunch of memes going around from Modern Warfare 2's campaign, since he has a lot of funny facial expressions, and there's a lot of clips that you can use for out of context clips that perfectly suit meme formats. Ralph said that in a conversation with an associate, Modern Warfare 2's sophomore DLC expansion will expand the campaign story with an intimate, episodic look behind Call of Duty's more established characters, factions, and new blood. Infinity Ward's approach to single-player content for 2023 was likened to Supermassive Games' The Dark Pictures anthological series. So according to this paragraph, the campaign DLC in 2023 won't even just be focusing on Simon Ghost Riley, and it might be focusing on other characters too, such as Soap. But once again, this is why I think we shouldn't really be taking Ralph's word as fact, because everything he stated within this article is purposefully left very ambiguous, so that whether he's right or wrong, he can come back and say, well, I never actually said that, because he says maybe it's this campaign DLC, but he doesn't then concretely say, well, this is the case. But then later on in the same article, he references this DLC expansion following the established characters with an intimate episodic look. So again, it seems like it's all left purposefully vague. It seems like he's only getting small little quotes maybe from some sources, and then he's going off of that and making educated guesses with the previous comments made by Infinity Ward's writer Brian Bloom when Modern Warfare 2's campaign launched. What I want to do now is just go over Simon Ghost Riley's origin story that was displayed within the comic book, and I want to speculate about how they could do a twist on this if it is going to be campaign DLC for Modern Warfare 2. But before I get into that, I just have an awesome sponsored message to share for you. This video has been kindly sponsored by Ragnarok Online, which is an entirely free-to-play MMORPG game available on PC. After 1,000 years of fragile peace, clues showing that the war between gods, humans, and demons that was once responsible for an unspeakable destruction could have started to appear. As troubling events happen, rumors rise about mysterious and evil forces coming back to life. What could have possibly happened to Ymir that God's supposed to maintain peace over the world? Player characters exist in a world with a player environment that gradually changes with the passage of time. Major changes in the features and history of the world take place as episodes in the timeline. It's a massive game jam-packed with a ton of content, with group PvE, PvP, grinding, getting married, vending machines, class building, and more. After the long gruesome war, scarred during the dangerous moments in battle, and avoiding total destruction altogether, the humans, gods, and demons enter a truce. The 1,000 years of fragile and forged peace. In the land of Midgard, the existence of peace eventually led the humans to erase their memories of the scars and hardships of the wars in the past. With not remembering the faults, culture was spreading throughout the land, along with selfishness, corruption, and arrogance. Then one day, strange occurrences started happening, breaking the balance that once existed in Midgard. There came a strange howl from the boundaries that divided the humans, gods, and demons. Creatures began attacking, increasing earthquakes and hail, and the mysterious legend of demons. As the fragile peace began to fall apart, stories about the parts of Ymir protecting the peace began to spread among the adventurers. Forgetting the true nature of it, people set out to seek each of the pieces for their own selfishness and the wealth that would come with it. The gameplay is heavily based around Norse mythology, wherein the characters are taken from the stories around Ragnarok. Player characters interact in a 3D environment, but are represented by 2D character spirits for front, back, side, and diagonal facings. With the various modes, the game also supports group versus group, arena combat, and player versus monsters, as well as player versus all, and various other specific scenarios at designated instance locations in the game's worlds. NPCs run challenges and contests with prizes available, and or in a specific Hall of Fame listing. Players can sign up for quests and submit them for rewards, as well as access storage and teleport services for a small fee. Every town will have the usual stores and shops where players can purchase and sell their items. The stores differ from city to city, because each city is affiliated with a different job that players can choose from. Therefore, the goods each sell are relative to that particular job that the city is affiliated with. Quests usually provide a unique reward, such as learning a new skill or receiving a rare item. The job system consists of over 50 classes. Each class specializes in certain skills corresponding to archetypes in an RPG. Additionally, numerous equipment are exclusive to particular classes. The greatness of the equipment depends on the character's attribute status. Once the player reaches level 99 and job level 50, they can rebirth their character. Rebirthing brings a character back to level 1 for both player level and job level. Reborn characters generally work the same as regular characters. Instead of a second class, characters that are born can transcend to a new and second job. Different from those of a character that hasn't been reborn, these transcended job types have more skills and a larger number of stat points to allocate to characters compared to second classes. The experience curve for transcendent jobs is significantly higher. Players are given the option to advance onto their third classes, which provide an additional set of skills, as well as allowing which player to break through the additional level cap of 99. Ragnarok Online is divided into a series of maps on 2 major continents, each of which has its own terrain and native monsters. Though many monsters are present in multiple regions, transportation between maps requires loading the new map, and monsters are unable to travel from one map to another unless directly associated with the player, such as a pet, mount, or airling. Areas from Norse mythology are included. So if this game sounds like a lot of fun, you can check out Ragnarok Online for free today via the link in the description. So within the comic book, we learnt about Simon Ghost Riley's past. Before he joined the military, Simon Riley had a very traumatic childhood while growing up in Manchester, England, because of his heartless father. His father often brought dangerous animals back to their home and taunted him with them, even going so far as to force Simon to kiss a snake. When he and his younger brothers, Tommy, grew older, Tommy would always wear a skull mask at night to scare Simon. Simon's father would sometimes take him to the Bone Lickers concerts. At one concert, his father made him laugh at the death of a prostitute who had overdosed on drugs. So he has a very, very dark childhood, and I don't know exactly how this could be presented in an in-game format. It doesn't really make sense to me. In terms of joining the military, Simon used to be an apprentice butcher at a grocery, but joined the military after the September 11th attacks occurred. He eventually was accepted into the Special Air Service. Returning from the military home on leave in January 2003, Simon found his mother and brother had hit rock bottom. His brother, Tommy, was addicted to drugs and had been stealing from their mother to support his habit. Simon chose to not return to the military unless he had straightened things out for his family. He worked to help Tommy overcome his drug addiction and, in March 2004, beat his father and threw him out of the house for all the abuse he had inflicted on Riley and his mother. By June 2006, Tommy had been clean for some time and married a woman named Beth. Riley served as the best man at Tommy's wedding. Beth had also given birth to a young boy named Joseph, who would become Riley's nephew. Again, I don't know how all of this would be presented in game. I also don't know if it is too dark. Yes, Call of Duty is an 18+ game, but it does seem like they want to keep the campaigns at least palatable for a general audience, because they know a bunch of kids play it too, even though they're not supposed to, but their parents allow them to. And to me, I don't know if they would go this dark within a campaign. And also, like I said, I don't know how this would be portrayed in the campaign. It doesn't make any sense unless it's in the form of a cutscene. You can't exactly play a campaign mission in this format. It gets really dark with Simon Ghost Riley though when he goes after Manuel Rober. Samuel was pulled from shipping out for an operation in Iran and was attached to an American team tasked with taking down Zaragoza drug cartel headed by Manuel Rober. When he and his team made their move on the Day of the Dead, the team's commanding officer, Major Vernon, betrayed them to the enemy. Riley and his teammates were brought to a brainwashing facility and tortured for months. Despite the torture, Vernon was unable to fully break Riley. Rober had Vernon killed for his failure and later buried Riley alive in Vernon's casket, leaving him to die. Using the jawbone from Vernon's rotted corpse, Riley was able to break through the casket, claw his way to freedom, and somehow made it back across the border to Texas. After 4 months, his injuries had healed, but he still suffered from temper management issues, which prevented him from returning to active duty. After meeting up with the other 2 former teammates from that mission, Kevin Sparks and Marcus Washington, he realized that Rober had broken and brainwashed both of them. He attempted to kill Sparks, but was forced to flee when Washington turned up unexpectedly. Fleeing, he returned home to find Washington had killed his mother, brother Tommy, sister-in-law Beth, and nephew Joseph, alternatively referred to as Jacob. I have no idea how he managed to survive all of this trauma. He killed Sparks and Washington before returning to Mexico to take down Rober once and for all. Riley ambushed Rober's right-hand man, Gilberto, and tortured Rober's location out of him. Arriving at Rober's compound, he methodically eliminated Rober's guard patrols before assaulting the mansion itself and, after a prolonged gunfight, killing Rober. Armed with information on Rober's contacts and business dealings, he prepared to leave but was approached by General Shepard, who recruited him into Task Force 141. So if they were to do this as a campaign, they could do a spin on it where instead Captain Price and Laswell approach them to join Task Force 141, or maybe just Captain Price, who then refers him to Laswell. But yeah, he went through a very, very traumatic childhood, and that bit at the end there I could see being a mission within a campaign, but how exactly would this all be fleshed out to make for an entire campaign? They're going to have to change a lot of things, of course, if they do decide to make a campaign out of this. Samuel Roukin, who plays Ghost, though, has these very menacing eyes. It's like he's staring into your soul. He has very unique eyes, and recently data miners did unmask Simon Ghost Riley, and he is modeled after Samuel Roukin, and I do think those menacing eyes that seem to have a lot of trauma within them do speak volumes to his backstory. Let me know in the comment section down below if they do a Simon Ghost Riley origin story campaign, how do you think they're going to change up his origin story from the original trilogy? I think they'll keep the same general gist if they do it, which again isn't confirmed by the way, but they're going to have to change a lot of things. Are they also going to show Simon Ghost Riley before he even had the ghost mask, which was of course inspired by his younger brother Tommy? I think if they do a prequel, they might actually show him without the mask on. Of course in the comics we do see him, but we don't know what he looks like exactly within this rebooted timeline, so maybe they're just going to have Samuel Roukin and we actually see his face, but a bit younger. The thing is, if they do this prequel as a campaign DLC, then what exactly is the post-credit scene teasing the new No Russian set on a plane with these Russian ultra-nationalists hijacking a plane, tying in with Makarov of course? We already have information about the first raids and we know this isn't going to be a raid, and I thought this post-credit scene might be hyping up or teasing this campaign DLC, unless this is just a teaser for Modern Warfare 3, if they do prequel campaign DLC instead of a sequel, but maybe that is just teasing a future raid. But judging from what we know about the first raid coming to the game in Season 1 Reloaded on November 14th, I don't think that is what the post-credit scene was teasing, but it might be for later DLC raids. Anyways, that's everything I wanted to talk about in this video. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not here for latest and greatest Call of Duty news and information. So anyways, thank you for watching, and bye.